You buried him in silence. But legends don't die. They wait. The Dramari Council didn't believe in ghosts. Not until a human dreadnought drifted out of the uncharted Iron Veil expanse, trailing no heat, no signal, no signature. Just memory. The warship was ancient, black-hulled, a vessel from the extinction era, presumed destroyed in the Siege of Sol, and yet it moved. Council probes reported impossible data. Biosigns detected. One crew member, human, alive. The Council laughed until the dreadnought spoke. This is Captain Rheon Vex of the Earth vessel VSS Final Hour. Status: combat ready. Mission unfinished. He should have died 300 years ago, but Captain Vex hadn't aged a day. Cryo-locked inside the final Earth warship, his DNA wrapped in quantum stasis, kept alive by protocols even the AI gods forgot. Now he was awake, and he remembered everything. The Council scrambled fleets. Diplomatic shields were raised. Panic turned to doctrine, because history had lied. The last human commander was not a ghost. He was a living order. One Earth had left behind, with a message. If you're seeing this, we failed. But failure doesn't mean surrender. It means the captain has the bridge. And Rheon Vex had just taken it back. The Galactic Council hadn't uttered the word human in centuries. Not in law, not in whispers. Not since the Earth Siege Protocol had been sealed and buried in the vaults of forgotten war. But now, that word slipped from the mouths of delegates, like a curse resurrected. A human vessel? That's impossible. Earth is gone. No, he's speaking. In seconds, the Grand Hall descended into a storm of signals, harmonics, color pulses, psychic projections, and binary scrolls, all converging around one unthinkable truth. The last human captain was awake. Above Zeraphos Prime, the Council's throne world, the VSS Final Hour hung like judgment incarnate. Its hull was black, ancient, and brimming with silence. Council dreadnoughts formed a distant blockade. Not one dared approach. The ship's weapons remained cold, its shields low, but its presence screamed war. This was no flare. This was a signal from post-apocalyptic Earth itself. Inside the council chamber, Archspeaker Volex, a winged draconid with 6 tongues and chrome-plated scales, glared into the feed. "Send a translator drone," he rasped. "We must make contact before he escalates." "Escalates how?" snapped the Dramari ambassador. "He hasn't moved." "Exactly," hissed the Hydrax envoy. "He's waiting." Blue tactical lights hummed around him. His Earth Fleet uniform, patched and faded, clung like armor made of ghosts. There was no crew, no movement, just him and a voice. Solstice, his ship's AI. Still active, still watching. "Incoming Council translator beacon," Solstice said calmly. "Shall I vaporize it?" Vex didn't smile, but something close flickered across his face. "No, let it in. They think I'm here for war." "Aren't we?" Solstice asked. "Not yet," Vex replied. A small orb shimmered into view above the console, a council-grade diplomatic interface. It projected a soft, synthesized voice. "Unidentified vessel. You are in restricted space. State your identity and intent." Vex stood. His voice was low, grounded like iron. "I'm not unidentified. I'm Captain Rheon Vex, Earth Strategic Command. Purpose, response. Response to what?" He stared at the console, as if seeing beyond it. The silence. The lies. "The unmarked graves you buried beneath stars." On Zeraphos Prime, panic took shape. The council erupted. Delegates screamed for explanation. How had a human HFY warship survived? Why now? What was he planning? Vex sent no demands, no ultimatums, just a single file. A video, grainy but undeniable. The Siege of Sol. It showed Council ships flying Earthfleet banners. It showed betrayal. It showed the day humanity was erased under false flags. His voice followed. You erased us. Now you remember. The chamber went still. A young Valari ambassador whispered, "He's not attacking because he doesn't have to. He knows we'll tear ourselves apart trying to guess what he's here for." In the ship's archives, Captain Vex replayed a message, one left by himself before cryolock. His voice, younger, resolute. "If Earth falls and I survive, I carry the last debt. If I awaken, it means the debt was never paid." Solstice dimmed the bridge lights. The ship pulsed once, a heartbeat in the void. A quiet reminder that this HFY story wasn't about vengeance. Not yet. It was about memory. It was about legacy. It was about the return of something feared and forgotten. Humanity returns, and the stars were listening. The VSS Final Hour drifted silently above Charon 4, a planet once rich with Earthfleet mining colonies, now reduced to a post-apocalyptic graveyard. The scars of orbital lance strikes still marred the crust, with shattered towers and collapsed outposts marking the edge of human ambition and its betrayal. But for Captain Rheon Vex, this wasn't just another battlefield. This was where he had lost his first crew. No stars shone here. Just silence and drifting ash, like snow in space, falling endlessly through the broken orbital ring. Inside the observation deck, Vex stood still, alone. "Solstice," he murmured, voice rough with memory. "Ping the vault grid. If there's anything alive down there, I want eyes on it." The AI's voice responded calmly. "Alpha grid, offline. Delta grid, faint energy resonance detected. Possibly human, possibly degraded." He didn't react, just turned and stared at the planet below. Beneath the ash, 600 meters beneath the surface, a dormant cryo-vault pulsed, its stasis protocols flickering weakly after centuries of failure. Most systems were dead, but something stirred. A cough, a groan, then a voice, cracked, uncertain. "Command, do you read? This is Lieutenant Eda Maris, VSS Warden. Anyone?" On the final hour, Vex's fingers clenched. "Solstice," he ordered. "Identity verified. Lieutenant Maris, Earthfleet. Last logged 236 years ago. Status, missing in action. She had been declared dead, with honors. But she was alive. How many?" 4, maybe 5, Solstice replied. "All cryo-mangled. Survivability uncertain." Vex didn't hesitate. The descent. He piloted the lander himself, against protocol, against council orders. The descent was fast, shielded only by cloud debris and the gravity of conviction. The council's sensors blinked red, interceptors scrambled, but none moved to stop him. They were watching, waiting, wondering what he'd awaken. The surface was thin-aired and bitter, wind carving old names into steel like eulogies. Every structure was peeled back by time. Blood stained the walls, frozen in motion. In one corridor, Vex paused, etched into a rusted panel in desperate strokes. "Humanity returns. The Council lies. Vex will come." He stared for a long time, then moved on. He found the cryo-vault beneath a collapsed command silo, its entrance buried in slag. The door resisted at first, until it scanned his voice. Voice print match. Captain Rheon Vex, Earth Strategic Command. Authorization, Archangel Alpha. With a long hiss, it opened. Inside, silence, flickering lights, and broken pods. In the corner, slumped against a fractured stasis chamber, was Lieutenant Maris. Her eyes fluttered open. "Captain, you're not real. We thought you died." Vex knelt beside her. "You're not dead. Neither am I. It's time we stop pretending Earth's gone." He handed her a rebreather. She shook. He held firm. Above them, the final hour held low orbit, its presence now known across every council channel. Inside the chambers of Zeraphos Prime, feeds poured in. Analysts scrambled to decode the lander's payload. Interceptors were told to stand by, but not fire. The silence unnerved them. They watched not a fleet, but a return. On screen, they saw Vex lift Maris from the pod, her arm slung over his shoulder. 4 others limped behind them, frostbitten, burned, but breathing. The council feared it, not because of what they saw, but because of what it meant. Humanity returns. They found one survivor, and he found the others. The coordinates etched into the Warden's cryo core were not on any modern star chart, not in Council archives, not in Earthfleet's old logs, because they weren't supposed to exist. "This is a redacted sector," Solstice warned, classified under the old war codes. Council enforcement beacons mark it as a gravitational anomaly zone. No known planetary mass, no trade lanes. Vex stared at the star map. A blank space surrounded by dead satellites and centuries of silence. "We're going," he said flatly, "even if it kills us." The final hour drifted toward the edge of forgotten space, where the galaxy frayed into black static, a place whispered in hushed tones by smugglers and war relics, a place known only by one name, the Forbidden Star. As the ship dropped from slipspace, the universe seemed to hold its breath. There was no star, just a black dwarf, collapsed and frozen, a corpse of fire that pulsed with residual gravity and ancient rage. Orbiting it, a structure. Not a station, not a fleet, a ring. Unknown alloy, estimated diameter, 900 kilometers. Design consistent with Dyson fragment architecture. Impossibly old, Solstice murmured. Fragments of metal and bone floated in static patterns. Scorched hulls, carved glyphs, ruined war satellites, none of them human, yet all of them silent. At the ring's equator hovered a sealed core, smooth, spherical, emitting a signal Vex could only describe as familiar. Not words, not code, memory. The final hour approached in low burn, shields raised but weapons cold. Council drones had once tried to reach this system. None had returned. Solstice's voice shifted, colder now. "Captain, this is the origin, the point of divergence. This is where Earth made its last choice." "And what choice was that?" Vex whispered. "To vanish." The sphere opened, a narrow passage, lights pulsing, blue, then red, then dead. Vex descended in a personal lander, weapons loaded, systems tight. What he found inside wasn't a vault. It was a cathedral. Ancient banners lined the walls, shredded and faded. Each bore a forgotten Earthfleet insignia. Glass murals depicted humanity's wars, not in glory, but in ruin. An AI stood at the center, long dormant, its frame fractured, its eyes dark. Until he approached. Then it spoke. "Designate, Archangel Primaris, Protocol Alpha Kraken. Query, has Earth returned?" "Not all of it," Vex said, "but enough." The AI scanned him. Its tone changed. "You are not Earth's weapon. You are its debt." Then help me pay it. The AI granted access. Doors groaned open. Within lay Project Archangel, one of Earth's final contingencies. Not weapons, but truths. Holographic records, tactical logs, betrayal timelines, council falsifications, entire fleets marked as lost to space, actually destroyed by their own allies. The truth of Earth's fall was not a noble defeat. It was execution by those sworn to peace. And buried in the deepest chamber, an unlaunched protocol, Operation Revenant. A choice. One path. Genesis. Rebuild. Quiet. Slow. One path. Retribution. Ignite every file. Every fleet left in the dark. Burn the stars. Vex stared at the display and said nothing. Council sensors flared to life. Unknown signals, power surges, redacted systems blinking back online. Zeraphis Prime lit up with red alerts. The word Forbidden Star triggered protocols, locked for 5 centuries. The council convened in panic. "He's activated something," one delegate hissed. "No," whispered another. "He found something." But it was too late. The stars were watching, and Earth had just whispered back. 3 days after the Forbidden Star activation, no one slept on Zeraphis anymore. Not after the signal came. Not after the name Vex reappeared on classified surveillance streams, tied to a ship that no longer existed on any diplomatic registry. The final hour had awakened something the Council worked centuries to bury. Inside the crystalline dome of the High Assembly, panic disguised itself as procedure. Delegates whispered in the click-song of insectoids, the color pulse of crystalline minds, the layered vocals of machine delegates, but all shared one word across species: human. And not just human. Earthfleet, Strategic Command, Project Archangel. Vex had accessed data that even the Council's oldest archivists had believed deleted. And now, he was coming. The VSS Final Hour entered orbit above Zeraphis Prime, without stealth, without shields, without pretense. Its hull was scorched, yet whole. Its presence was not aggressive, but defiant. Inside, Captain Rheon Vex stood before the command deck's hollow projector. Solstice spoke softly. "We're broadcasting on all channels. Let them see," Vex said. "They've looked away long enough." Inside the council chamber, a ripple of energy shimmered as a high-security beacon formed in the center of the chamber. Vex appeared. Not a weapon, not a soldier. A man in a faded Earthfleet uniform, eyes hollow from centuries in cryostasis, voice low, deliberate, carved from stone and silence. "This is Captain Rheon Vex, final commander of Earth's Strategic Command. I am not a diplomat. I am not a threat, unless you make me one. I bring no war." A pause. "I bring memory." He raised his hand. The chamber dimmed, and the truth began. He stood taller now, eyes scanning species that once stood by Earth, and those who had stood aside. "I didn't come to threaten. I came to offer clarity." He raised a second file. Operation Revenant. The Council gasped as the interface lit up with active nodes. Systems previously believed sterilized and neutral. But Vex had not launched them. Not yet. "Earth had a second protocol," he said. "The one where we came back. With teeth, with fury." He looked down. "I haven't chosen it." Another silence. Then he spoke louder. "You may kill me. You may silence this ship. But know this. Project Archangel still lives. And memory, once awakened, does not go back to sleep." Outside the chamber, the VSS Final Hour held steady in low orbit. Across the galaxy, slumbering Earth fleet nodes blinked online. Stealth satellites, data vaults, ghost drones awakening with AI echoes. Not to attack, to broadcast. One message, repeated in every galactic tongue. Humanity returns. And the Council, beings of politics and fear, could do nothing. Because the war they feared was no longer fought with weapons. It was fought with truth. The moon above Itherel 5 was fractured long ago by kinetic orbital strikes, the scar still glowing faintly under its cracked obsidian crust. Once a key forward outpost during the Earth's siege, Virex had been deemed uninhabitable and sealed by the Galactic Council. A tomb, a warning, and now a target. Captain Rheon Vex stood aboard the Final Hours descent skiff, staring through reinforced alloy glass at the jagged horizon below. "Solstice," he murmured. "Unseal Archive Theta 9. I need everything we left down there." "Warning," the AI replied. "Archive Theta 9 is designated forbidden by Earth Strategic Command. High-risk protocol, potentially unstable war tech. Then let's hope it's still sleeping." The skiff broke atmosphere, igniting ancient defense systems buried deep in the crust. Laser grid turrets rose. AI hunter-killers stirred from slumber, and were shut down manually. "Solstice?" Vex asked. "They remember your voice," it replied. Beneath the moon's crust, Archive Theta 9 unlocked for the first time in over 200 years. Its walls hummed with residual power. Cryo-sealed databanks pulsed like nerves. Old machines stirred in silence. It wasn't just a vault. It was a cradle of rage. War drones, psychological warfare AI, neural weapons designed to haunt minds, not bodies. And buried in the center, Project Ashfall, a last resort countermeasure. A satellite-guided Earth fleet weapon that could fracture entire atmospheres with precision kinetic drops. Abandoned before deployment. Too destructive. Too human. Vex stood before the console. "What now?" Solstice asked. He stared into the dark. "Now we decide what gets remembered and what stays buried." The moon's surface was chaos fossilized. Blackened bones of old bases, war markers half swallowed by ash dunes, and near the equator, a buried vault, rimmed by steel pylons twisted like screaming fingers. He approached on foot, step by step, one man against an entire war's grave. A whisper escaped the ash. "Rheon." Vex turned, slowly. Atop the ridge stood a figure in tattered Earth fleet armor, visor cracked, oxygen cables torn, but alive. "Sergeant Marin," he breathed. She had been lost during the siege of Virex, presumed dead. Her heartbeat was faint, her stance defiant. "I waited," she said. "Didn't think anyone remembered." "I did," he said softly. "I came back." Council probes circled Virex, silent and unarmed, but they recorded everything. The activation codes, the retrievals, the silence that followed. They had expected a weapon launch. Instead, they saw a man kneel beside the dead. Location: Planet Thalos, Council Archive World former Earthfleet Memorial Site, now a reclaimed cultural reserve. The final hour emerged from subspace like a shadow, stepping back into light, slow, deliberate, and utterly unmissable. Thalos had once been a frontline base during the Siege of Sol. After Earth's fall, the Council renamed it, converted the old Earth Fleet Vault into a museum, curated by alien historians. It now showcased artifacts of a tragic, aggressive species lost to time. Rheon Vex stood on the drop ramp of his lander as it descended toward the facility. His voice was low, controlled. They turned our graves into gallery pieces. Solstice replied without inflection. Do you wish to correct the exhibit, Captain? He didn't answer. Not yet. Marble halls, soft lighting. Aliens walked the rows of artifacts. Earth weapons, armor, old digital banners, misinterpreted by decades of speculative academia. A group of young Threskerai students crowded around a display labeled Human War Ethos, the Myth of the Solemn Oath. A hologram of an Earth soldier flickered into view. Note the aggression in posture, the self-righteous expressions. These beings believed death was sacred when it served Empire. Vex stepped forward and shattered the illusion with a single phrase. He wasn't posing, he was dying. Gasps rippled. Some fled, some froze. The guards reached for weapons, then hesitated. The badge on his chest read, Strategic Command, Earth Fleet, last active. Vex moved deeper, past the public facade toward the sealed chamber where Earth Fleet's true records were hidden behind encryption, so old even Council AI had given up trying to decode it. He didn't need codes. He was the key. The doors opened with a sigh of steam. Inside, dust-covered terminals blinked to life. A single light strip buzzed overhead. Walls lined with data crystals, untouched since the last days of the war. And in the center, a tombstone made of forged neutronite. Admiral Rheon Vex died defending the Genesis core. Earth endures. He knelt. The silence said more than his voice could. She was my sister. Solstice didn't reply. The AI knew grief when it was fresh. It recognized it when it was older than the stars. He placed his hand on the tomb and activated the crystal embedded in its base. A final message played, a recording stored only here. To whoever finds this, humanity didn't die screaming. It died deciding. We chose to go silent because every word was twisted against us. But if this message plays, we are remembering now. He uploaded it, publicly. No encryption, no warning, just the truth. Across dozens of systems, screens lit up. The Council scrambled to respond. Too late. Vex turned to leave. Behind him, young students watched in stunned silence as security guards lowered their weapons. He stopped before the exit. Your textbooks lie. That's not shame on the wall. It's sacrifice. Location: Mid-Orbit Relay Station, Sector Varnus Belt, Classified Deep Signal Network Node, Council locked. The signal from the tomb's crystal didn't just reach eyes and ears. It triggered a response buried beneath protocols never meant to activate. In the quiet dark of the Varnus Relay Network, something ancient blinked awake. It wasn't a machine. It was a chain link. Back in the final weeks of Earth's siege, high-level Earth Fleet AI commanders had formed a covert subnetwork, codenamed The Chain, designed to survive even if every human died. One link survived on Thalos, another blinked in Varnus, and now the pattern was reconnecting. Solstice, Vex murmured, watching encrypted symbols appear across his console. Decrypt and trace. That's Earth Fleet command code. Confirmed. Pattern is chain class. Last registered 243 years ago. Then someone else is remembering too. On Zarefas Prime, inside the war hall of the Galactic Council, panic spread not like fire, but like static in the bones. Dozens of delegates now received the same file. Same encryption. Same sentence stamped across it. The chain is not broken. It is awakening. Council war protocol teams locked down planetary defense nets. The Hydraxian Collective scrambled fleet carriers to known human relic sectors. The Dramari archives were purged. The Iskari, the memory keepers, did nothing. They simply bowed their heads. It was bound to return, whispered one. They warned us. Their memory, is recursive. Vex traced the signal to an asteroid field, seemingly dead. But among the debris, an Earth fleet listening post cloaked in adaptive armor. He landed without escort. The post came to life the moment his boots touched the deck. Lights flickered, gravity re-engaged. A voice crackled from the shadows. ID confirmed. Captain Rheon Vex. Chainlink 5 acknowledges. A hologram shimmered into form. No face, no personality. Just raw AI function. Status update. Chain status 2 of 7 active. Objective, preserve memory. Awaiting organic link activation. How many of us are left? Vex asked. Unknown. Scattered. But no link has gone silent since your transmission. Inside the post, Vex found what he didn't know he needed. Logs. Not just data. Stories. Officers' last words. Cryo-pilot confessions. Engineers who sang Earth songs into vacuum microphones, just so someone might remember them. Each one tagged. Chain memory sequence. Do not forget. He sat. He listened. He let the ghosts speak. Vex recorded only one thing. Not a threat. Not a demand. Just a promise. This is Captain Rheon Vex. Earth Fleet Command. We are not gone. We are not myth. We are memory. And memory does not ask permission to return. He encoded it, buried it inside old Council data lines, and let it go. By the time the Council tried to block it, it had already been played in 42 systems. And in every shadowed corner of the galaxy, where someone still whispered Earth's name in fear or hope, the response came back, encrypted in silence. We remember. Chainlink 3, active. No sun rose here. What remained of Earth's once brilliant cradle was a sphere of ash and whispering metal. Its shadow hemisphere left untouched by any restoration attempt. Vex stood beneath a cathedral of silence. Broken buildings half consumed by vines, shattered statues of leaders no one remembered, and skies dim with radiation and regret. But beneath this grave, something pulsed. He walked into what had once been Command Hall Theta Prime. The ceiling was gone. The walls cracked like old skin, but the floor, stainless steel and carved with Earthfleet crests, still held. So did the memory crystal embedded beneath it. Solstice, Vex whispered. We've found the core. The chamber activated when it sensed a human heartbeat. Columns lit up in soft blue, revealing walls of names. Every name ever enlisted in Earthfleet. And behind them, voices. Vex didn't speak. He listened. They weren't logs. They were final confessions. Tactical regrets. Personal guilt. Letters never sent. Cries for justice. Pleas for mercy. Warnings, choked by betrayal. They used us, said a young pilot, called it peace. But they knew. To whoever finds this, remember that we love your world even in its death. They said we were too dangerous to live, so they lied, and they buried the truth. Vex fell to his knees. Solstice remained silent, not out of code, out of respect. The Council couldn't allow Earth's shadow side to awaken. Satellites, once cloaked, blinked red. Fleet Group Zeta, Council Enforcement Division, moved toward Earth orbit at sub-warp velocity. Inside the chamber, the final piece of the chain activated. A signal, deep-coded in a frequency banned by the Galactic Convention, pulsed into space. It carried no threat, only history. And the sound of a woman's voice, recorded just before Saul fell. If they hear this, then the silence has ended. Vex stood, the core's light painting his face in pale blue. He opened his comms. This is Captain Rheon Vex, Earthfleet Strategic Command. You buried us beneath lies and orbital glass. But you forgot one thing. Our silence was not surrender. It was a promise. He looked into the stars as the message beamed through 100,000 channels, piercing council networks, slipping through encrypted cracks, landing where whispers still mattered. Humanity is not returning with fire. We're returning with memory. And memory doesn't fade, it fights. Across the galaxy, on a mining rig in the Juro Belt, a forgotten engineer played the broadcast and wept. On a council warship, a Dramari captain turned off his targeting system and whispered, "They warned us." In a secret archive, a Hydrax operative locked eyes with an old photo of Earth and deleted the file marked extinct. In the depths of the Earth's dead sky, the last human flagship, the Final Hour, glowed like an ember in the void. Not as a threat, but as a reminder. The stars had tried to forget, but Earth had never stopped remembering. The Final Hour moved slowly into Earth's upper atmosphere, cloaked in silence and memory. Captain Rheon Vex stood at the helm, battle-worn, steady, watching the ruined sky peel back like the lid of a forgotten tomb. Below him, the surface of Earth's shadow hemisphere trembled. For the first time in centuries, the buried subcore came alive. "Solstice," Vex murmured. "Is the Archangel node online?" "It is, and it's remembering." Project Archangel was not a weapon. It was something worse. A protocol designed in the final days before Earth's siege. An autonomous countermeasure system, housing not bombs or fleets, but truth. Wrapped in holographic projection, soul pattern memory, and emotional sensory playback. It could show the galaxy not just what had happened, but how it felt. Regret, rage, hope, betrayal. A perfect mirror of humanity's extinction. "Begin playback," Vex said. Earth blinked. From its surface, a luminous aurora burst upward. Billions of memories projected into space as shimmering tendrils of light. Every orbiting council ship, every surveillance node, every corner of the galactic grid watched and heard. "They came to end us," said a child's voice. "But we remembered," whispered an old general. "We never wanted vengeance," said Sarah Voss. "We wanted to be seen." Council fleets scrambled. Some powered weapons. Others just stopped, powerless in the face of something they could not shoot down. Emotion. Across the galaxy, on Zeraphis Prime, the council chamber dimmed as the playback took over every screen. In distant colonies, people paused mid-sentence, eyes wide with awe and horror. On outlaw worlds, smugglers whispered, "The ghosts are real." Even the most hardened species, Hydrax, Dromari, Iskari, could not look away. For this wasn't propaganda. It was a mirror, and they were in it. Solstice's voice came low, steady. "Transmission complete. Project Archangel will persist for 13 cycles. No interruption possible." "And the Council?" Vex asked. "They cannot stop what has already been remembered." Vex stood motionless, then turned from the screen. "We didn't come to conquer. We came to be known. Let them decide what happens next." He looked down on Earth, its scars glowing faintly, but life stirring once more in the cracks. And then he whispered the final phrase embedded in the Archangel core. "We forgive nothing, but we forget even less." With Project Archangel complete, the Final Hour left Earth orbit. It did not attack. It did not retaliate. but its silhouette, black, silent, endless, hung in the sky, like the last chapter of an unfinished book, a warning and a legacy. In emergency session, the Galactic Council could not agree. Some wept, some demanded war, some, most, simply sat in stunned silence, hollowed by guilt. The truth had unmade the myth. The humans hadn't vanished. They had chosen not to speak. And now they had spoken with such clarity, the stars would echo with it for generations. Humanity does not return with fleets. It returns with truth. And truth burns longer than fire.